Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk, live and direct on a Wednesday. A hail and hearty happy hump day to each and every one of you. We've got 3 hours of sports talk coming your way this afternoon here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk is the name of the channel. You can also catch us on our Facebook page, WIBW News. However you are consuming the program today, listening, watching, so much appreciate you being a part, spending some time on this Wednesday with 580 Sports Talk. Dan Lucero with you today, flying the bird solo, though there may be a cameo from our buddy Brendan Dworzinski a little bit later on. Spencer Dupuy's off rest of the week, starting next, take a little time off. So for the most part, for better or for worse, it's you and me for the next 3 hours. We're here until 6, and then tonight, 8 o'clock, pregame coverage from the Royals Baseball Network. Game 3 of 4 in Seattle between the Royals and the Mariners. First pitch once again scheduled for 8:40. Royals trying to start a win streak. They defeated the Mariners 6-3 last night at T-Mobile Park. We're going to talk about that on the program today. I begged for a fun Royals game to watch. I suppose it depends on your definition of fun. It was enjoyable watching the bats come out for a change. And we're going to talk about the difference between that offensive effort, the offensive effort from the night before. It was really distinct. We're going to talk about Salvador Perez being at the center of it. And I think that the reports of Salvador Perez's demise have been greatly exaggerated. And I've got some numbers to back that up, even though the raw season-long numbers are still not what you want or would have expected from the Royals captain. I think this idea that he's just cooked, no, I disagree, and I've got numbers to back that up. So we'll talk a little bit about Salvi. We'll talk about the bullpen. Nice work from them last night. It was kind of funny how it worked. The reliever would pitch out of a jam, somebody else's jam, and then they'd create their own jam that somebody else had to pitch them out of in the intervening innings. But the Royals were able to bridge things nicely to Steven Cruz with a dominant eighth and Carlos Estevez for the save. So plenty of Royals talk to get to. We'll also look ahead to tonight's game 3 of that series in Seattle and why Matt Cotrero might have to have a different strategy with starting pitcher Noah Cameron tonight than he has had in Cameron's young career. I don't think that kid gloves are going to be acceptable tonight for Noah Cameron, and I'll explain why I think that's the case a little bit later on. We will talk the football today, of course. Our Chiefs countdown to kickoff continues. We are at 65 days until the Chiefs kick off the season against the Chargers. And number 65 for the Chiefs, one of the most talked about members of the Chiefs this offseason, that's Trey Smith. I'm going to talk about what I love about Trey Smith, the cloth that he's cut from, and talk about why I understand why the negotiations for a long-term contract are taking as long as they are taking. The deadline's coming up. They've got a little less than 2 weeks to get the deal done while Smith is on the franchise tag. Otherwise, he just is on the tag for 2025. I think it will still get done, but I understand why it hasn't, and we'll get into that a little bit. Also going to talk some Big 12 football today. Who are the best players in the Big 12? We know who EA Sports thinks are the best, as the college football 26 video game ratings were put out yesterday, and now we've got a fairly comprehensive list. One K-Stater in the top 10 best Big 12 players, and it's probably not a name you're expecting. So we'll talk about that, talk about which players are maybe a little overrated by a video game, which players are pretty underrated. We'll also take a look at the top-ranked quarterbacks by the video game, because they put out their top 20 quarterbacks again, on the game. And there were 5 quarterbacks from the Big 12, including one. Actually, there were 6. My mistake. One of them is not going to play this year, at least not for his Big 12 school. So even throwing Jake Retzlaff out, 5 of the top 19 quarterbacks being from the Big 12 conference, I think that the Big 12 is going to be exceptional to watch for a lot of reasons this year. But at the top of the list is I think there's a lot of quarterbacks who are either really good or have a chance to be really good and really exciting too. And I will argue that there's a chance that the best quarterback play in the country this year is coming from the Big 12. Top to bottom. Really, really like where the quarterback situations are all across the Big 12, except for the ones that have been, thrown into jeopardy because the starter from last year has to transfer because he violated the school's honor code. Everywhere else, I feel pretty good. Well, except for Oklahoma State. Forgot about them. They're a mess. Everybody else, though, seriously, I feel varying degrees of all right to excited about their quarterback mix. So we'll talk about that, and we'll use the EA Sports player rankings as sort of a framing device for that. And we'll get more K-State insight, of course, from our guy, Tim Fitzgerald, to GoPowerCat.com. Fitz will join us bottom of the 4 o'clock hour for the Wildcat Wrap-up, as he does every Wednesday on the show. Our last chance to check in with Fitz before Big 12 Media Days next week. So we will get Fitz's thoughts on the latest K-State happenings. That's coming up again, bottom of the 4 o'clock hour. And I'll answer some listener questions today. I see Vance in the YouTube comments already asking if there'll be an Ask Me Anything today. I thought I would try a little something like that today in the 5 o'clock hour, where I'll answer sports questions today. I'll answer questions about the Chiefs, the Royals, KU, K-State. I'll answer questions about my own favorite team. If you've got like a question about the Ottawa Senators and you want to ask me, I'll try to answer it. If you've got a rules question, a procedural question, anything sports related, I will be your answer man, your answer Dan, if you will, in the 5 o'clock hour of the show. So get some questions in today, and I'll answer them in the 5 o'clock hour. We'll have some fun with that a little bit later on in the show. It's short week. It's just me. Thought we could have some fun in the 5 o'clock hour. Also, everything that you have come to know and love from a Wednesday edition of the show. We will have our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We'll do What Is Wrong With You coming up in the 4 o'clock hour as well. You are, as always, invited and encouraged to be a part of 580 Sports Talk. Here's how you can do that. You can text the show. The text line is open, 785-272-9429. The text line never sleeps, 785-272-9429. Send a text. React to what we're talking about. Ask a question about the world of sports. I'll answer it for you. 785-272-9429 is the phone number at which you can text 580 Sports Talk. Can also interact if you are watching the show on YouTube today. Again, our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not already. Go subscribe. 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. And if you're watching live, there is a chat feature on the web browser or your mobile device, and you can jump in the chat and interact with your fellow listeners and with yours truly throughout the program today. So Vance is in. I mentioned him. Mark H., hello. Good to see you. Ryan, as always, happy to see you. And excited to see more of you file in as we go along on this Wednesday in the chat on 580 Sports Talk. Royals 6, Mariners 3 last night. Hope you did stay up for that one. That was a fun little ball game. And the biggest thing to me that stood out last night was a welcome change for the Royals offense. And no, I don't just mean that they scored runs, 6 of them to be precise. That's a big night for them. We know they have struggled all season long to put up crooked numbers. So for them to get the early lead in the first inning and to be able to add to it in the middle frames and then tack on late for insurance, that run in the 8th was big. That was a welcome sight for sure. But it was not just that they scored runs. It was how they scored runs. I saw a Royals lineup last night that felt in attack mode in a good way. Because I think you can interpret attack mode when you're talking about a lineup in baseball in one of two ways. You can interpret that in Well, they're trying to swing at a lot of first pitches. They're, trying to hit early strikes and counts, not working counts. They're trying to get on a pitcher and really ambush a pitcher. And that's one thing. But I also think that you can say that a lineup was in attack mode when they are hammering the good pitches that they get, when they are doing damage on good pitches. This is the thing that I talked about on yesterday's show. The Royals do not do it often enough. They don't hit the ball hard often enough. They don't hit the ball far often enough. Boy, did they change that last night. Remember I was talking about the batted balls over 100 miles an hour in Tuesday's game and how few of those the Royals had relative to the Mariners? Script flipped last night. There were 20 batted ball events last night where the exit velocity was over 100 miles an hour, and the Royals had 16 of those 20 balls, including the 6 hardest hit balls of the night, all from Royals. 13 of the 15 hardest hit balls of the night, all by the Royals. And this is the most fascinating part of it to me. 8 of the 9 Royals starters had at least one batted ball over 100 miles per hour. Nick Lofton was the only one who didn't. Even John Ray, even Kyle Isbell had 2 batted balls over 100 miles an hour last night. The Royals were on the attack, and they were squaring the ball up and delivering the kinds of batted ball outcomes that generally lead to success. And it did lead to success. They got some of the big 2-out hits that have eluded them all season, and the result of it was a really nice win. And Salvador Perez was in the middle of it all, and that feels right. Look, it will not surprise you to hear me tell you that teams perform better offensively when they win than when they lose. And that there's a pretty big differential between how a team performs on offense when they win relative to when they lose. That would also, you would expect, be the case for the Royals' best hitters. And it is. Both Bobby Witt Jr. and Maikel Garcia have on-base plus slugging, OPS, over 1,000 in games that the Royals win this year. When the Royals lose, their collective OPSs are down like in the high 6s, which is not great. That's below average. There's about a 300-plus point difference in OPS when you're winning, OPS when you're losing. The Royals as a team have an OPS that's about 250 points higher in games they win than in games they lose. Like, that all tracks, right? Like, that's not a particularly startling revelation. It is kind of funny. I did find this. Vinny Pasquantino's OPS in wins is only 7 points higher than his OPS in losses. He's basically been just the same hitter no matter what ends up happening in the game for the Royals. I thought that was kind of fascinating. But Salvador Perez is another guy on this roster who is much better in wins than in losses. But where he stands out, he hasn't just been bad when the Royals lose. He's been miserable when the Royals lose. In the Royals' losses this year that Salvador Perez has played in or taken at bats in, Salvy's hitting 189 with a 240 on base and just a 280 slugging percentage. That's a 520 OPS. That's wretched. That's an OPS that gets you benched, if that's just your baseline level of performance. And that's what Salvy's done in the losses for the Royals this year. That's 176 plate appearances. He has 9 extra base hits, 6 doubles, 3 homers, only 12 RBI in losses. In wins, well, Salvy. 288 average, 321 on base, 510 slug in 162 plate appearances, 22 extra base hits in wins this year, 34 runs driven in. I think, if anything, this really underscores how important Salvador Perez in particular is to the Royals' run production. And if they don't get it from Salvy, they have a lot of trouble winning games. It's one thing if you're the leadoff or the 2-hole hitter, or you're the 5-hole hitter like Maikel Garcia has been a lot of the year, though I know he's moved up recently. But when you're the guy in the middle, when you're the captain, when you're the Silver Slugger winner, you're the guy that kind of stirs the drink. You have got to deliver when the moment presents itself. And the moment presented itself to Salvador Perez last night multiple times, and he delivered multiple times. Had the 2-run double in the 5th inning that pushed the lead to 5-1, really broke the game open. I don't know what Julio Rodriguez saw that caused him to try and jump up the fence and rob a home run when the ball hit off the middle of the fence like 10 feet to his right. I have determined watching the games the last 2 nights out there in Seattle that people just don't see the ball very well. Hitters, fielders, it just doesn't seem like they pick it up good. I don't know if that's like a natural light thing. I have no idea. But I've seen enough where it seems like nobody sees the ball great. Salvador Perez saw it good last night, though. So he hits that double, and that made it 5-1. And then Sal doubled again later in the 7th, but didn't end up coming around to score because Jack Caglione hit a seed right at the first baseman. But then Sal got the RBI single in the 9th with 2 outs and runners at the corners, and that pushed the lead out to 6-3. Gave you a little bit more breathing room, had you feeling better going into the 9th inning, especially with the red-hot Randy Arozarena leading off that frame against Estevez. You liked having that extra cushion. And Salvador with a couple of big hits last night. And it was welcome to see. Because I think, look, everybody performs better when the team wins than when they lose. But the vibes are better, if that makes sense, when Salvador Perez is producing, when he's smiling, when he's dumping Gatorade on people after games. They need him. They need him. And the good news is, and I'll circle back around to Salvi here in a little bit. The good news is I do think we're going to see that version of Salvador Perez a lot more in the second half. I think that's still there. I mentioned Caglione. I want to talk about him real quick before I get to anything that happened on the mound last night. I thought that was Cags' best game worth of at-bats last night, probably since that 4-hit game in Chicago. He had the 2-homer game in Texas as well, but that was as good as he has looked from an at-bat perspective. He was patient. He worked some counts. He drew a walk. He didn't offer at pitches that he could not do anything with. And he had 3 batted balls of over 100 miles per hour last night. And then a 4th that was 95 miles an hour off the bat, a sinking liner to center field that, according to Baseball Savant's numbers, had an expected batting average of 900. 9 out of 10 times, that exact exit velocity, launch angle on that ball by Jack Caglione is a hit. 9 times out of 10. The other time, well, Julio Rodriguez makes a nice sliding catch because he's a great defensive center fielder. That was a hang with them night for Cags, if ever there was one. Flew out to the warning track in his last at-bat. I mentioned the rocket he hit down the first baseline that Solano speared that cost him an RBI double in the 7th. That was a good night of at-bats for Caglione. And you can attribute it to whatever. You can say, well, hitting is contagious, and I certainly believe that to be true. I just hope this is, and again, how many times have I said that this year? Too many to believe that I can be right for a change when I say it again here. But hopefully it's the start of something, because that was an offensive approach last night. That was a confident offensive approach. That was a team that actually looked like they looked at the scouting report for Emerson Hancock and they said, yeah, 5-something ERA, doesn't miss bats. You know, all the stuff I was telling you about the law firm of Emerson Hancock when we talked on yesterday's show. And it's like the Royals looked at that and said, yeah, we can get after this guy. We're going to take it to this guy. We're going to be in attack mode tonight. So long may it last, because the Royals offense, as you saw last night, they're a lot better when they get into attack mode. So I thought that was a really good night for just about everybody on that Royals offense. And Cags in particular, hang with him, kid. That was a tough night of luck, but I was impressed by his at-bats. I thought that was a good night of at-bats for him. On the Hill last night, I understand why Michael Lorenzen was not happy when he got pulled 1 out shy of being able to qualify for a win last night. That still matters to pitchers. Lorenzen left with a tying run at the plate. if I remember right, it was Julio Rodriguez. Yeah, it was Rodriguez coming to the plate in the 5th. And Rodriguez was 0 for 2 with a strikeout against Lorenzen. It was right on right, so it wasn't like a huge platoon disadvantage. Camera panned to Lorenzen in the Royals dugout when Schreiber was facing Rodriguez that inning. You could tell Lorenzen wasn't pleased. You could tell that was frustrating for him to get yanked at 89 pitches, to get yanked with a 5-3 lead. Like, you'd always rather go get a guy a batter too early than a batter too late, but you could tell that bothered Lorenzen. But Schreiber did his job, and he got Julio Rodriguez out and preserved the lead, and then Schreiber made a mess in the 6th, and Angel Zerpa came in and does the thing that you envision Angel Zerpa doing, even against a right-handed pinch hitter. When you bring Zerpa in, when Matt Quatrero makes the call with runners on base for Angel Zerpa, this is what he draws up. It's the power sinker, going to beat it into a ground, going to get the double play, going to get out of the inning, no harm done. And that is exactly what happened for Zerpa in the 6th. Then he went out in the 7th, couldn't throw a strike, walks first 2 guys of the inning. Urseg gets the double play, gets out of that mess. That was as sharp as I think Urseg has looked in his last couple of outings. Really nice to see him returning to form. The Royals certainly need that as he performs in that fireman role. Steven Cruz was awesome in the 8th inning. He threw the fastest fastball of his career last night for strike 3 to the Major League home run leader, Cal Raleigh. Threw it by him at 101.3 miles per hour. That was a dynamite. That was like a little old school, like Kelvin Herrera, Wade Davis, Greg Holland type inning where you just knew the other guys didn't have a chance. I guess more Herrera of those 3 guys because it was about the fastball. Like with Cruz, the big carrying pitch is the fastball. He can throw it by you in a way that, 101 straight is still hittable by big league hitters. But Cruz has a little movement. He's got a little funk in the delivery, just enough. It's an elite fastball. He's not quite. It's not a great comparison, not a straight line comparison with Herrera, just in the sense that for Kelvin Herrera, his best pitch was the fastball too. His best pitch was he was humming triple digits. And so that's kind of what it reminded me of last night. Just one of those innings where a guy rolls out of the bullpen throwing 1-on-1 and you think, all right, well, let's try again in the 9th, fellas. We got nothing for this guy tonight. That was super impressive from Cruz. Estevez took care of the 9th for his 23rd save. Good win. Good performance. I said on yesterday's show, it gets harder to see a good team waiting to break out for the Royals. That was what it looked like last night. That was the tantalizing taste of the good team that we saw late April through early May, that we saw most of last year. Last night can make you believe maybe it's still there. They got to go build on it. Not going to be easy. Another good starting pitcher for Seattle tonight, but that was at least a real encouraging performance, up and down, top to bottom, as the Royals beat the Mariners last night. As we continue on 580 Sports Talk, we're going to get into our Chiefs countdown to kickoff later on this hour. Tim Fitzgerald's going to join us, talk K-State in the 4 o'clock hour. Take your questions on sports, and we'll do that later on in the show as well. Your text, 785-272-9429. Your comments in the YouTube chat. When we come back, though, reports of Salvador Perez's demise, greatly exaggerated. I'll explain why on 580 Sports Talk. We're just getting warmed up on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Dan, solo today. Thanks for being with me. Salvador Perez, 3-hit night last night, and also a 3 RBI night for the Royals captain. Going back to May 21st. And yeah, I know it's convenient cherry picking statistically to start with a game where the player in question performed well and go forward from there. But May 21st is significant, not just because Salvador Perez had a good day at the plate that day. That was the afternoon game in San Francisco, where Salvador Perez did something he hadn't done in 31 games that afternoon. He hit a home run. Not only did he homered to the opposite field at Oracle Park, which for a right-handed batter is just about impossible. You almost never see it. You don't see right-handers go over that big wall in right field in front of McCovey Cove there in San Francisco. But Salvi did it on May 21st. And starting with that day through last night's 3 for 5, Salvi in 34 games is hitting .269 with a .319 on base and a .493 slug. That's an .812 OPS. That all feels like a very Salvador Perez kind of batting line. That's a very familiar Salvador Perez batting line. In that 34-game stretch, he has 16 extra base hits, 9 doubles, 7 home runs. And he has driven in 25. I wanted to talk about Salvi in particular because it is frustrating to watch him when he's not going well. And this has been the case really for the majority of Salvador Perez's career. It will be the demerit against Salvador Perez's Hall of Fame case when it is time to make that case. And I look forward, by the way, when that day comes, and I'm not trying to rush Salvador Perez in retirement so we can do this, but I will be happy to enthusiastically argue for Salvador Perez's inclusion into the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in Cooperstown, New York. I'll be happy to make that argument. I think there's absolutely an argument to be made for Salvador Perez as a Hall of Famer. But I also think the counter argument's pretty easy to make, and you can start with the counter argument. Salvador Perez has made so many outs in his major league career. And I don't just mean like by volume, because like his total career number of at-bats is only 6,601 in 1,633 games. So it's not like, oh, he's made more outs than anyone else. His career on base percentage is .302. And the other way to look at it is that 70% of the time Salvador Perez comes to play is making an out. And that's a lot. That's a lot. That would be probably the lowest on base percentage by a non-pitcher by some distance, were he to be enshrined into Cooperstown. His on-base percentage this year is .279. Making outs 72% of the time. That would be not quite a career low, because in 2018 he had a .274 on-base percentage. But like that's never been Sal's thing. Like, he hits home runs, and we've seen him have years where the batting average has been pretty good. He's been a power guy. He's driven in 100 runs twice, led the league in home runs in 2021. We all know this. But Salvador Perez has made in his career a lot of outs. And he's also, as he's gotten older, struck out a lot more. Really, his entire career, he was pretty strikeout prone. Maybe a little less so when he was younger. In the pennant-winning years, he wasn't striking out maybe that much. But he has struck out over 100 times each of the last 4 seasons, and 70 strikeouts in 81 games this year. You do the math, he's probably going to get there again. And that's why he can be frustrating to watch when he's not going well, because typically what it results in is not a lot of contact. When Sal's in a funk, he'll swing at anything and get himself out and get himself into bad counts because he'll swing at pitches he shouldn't. It's just part and parcel of the Salvador Perez experience. If he was going to change, he would have by now, but he's 35 and he is who he is. So it is frustrating to watch him struggle, because it feels like, oh my gosh, if you would just not swing at that slider 8 feet off the plate and get yourself into a 1-0 count, 7-0-1 count, maybe you'd be in better shape. And it's been doubly frustrating this season because his struggles have corresponded with the struggles of a Royals team for whom there were expectations. But what I like about some of the data that's out there is that you can strip out the results-based stuff. You can strip out the stuff that needs a lot of context. And you can look at what Salvador Perez is really doing at the plate, like just in terms of his physical abilities at the plate. And I'm here to tell you they're still intact. I went and looked at the numbers. You know they measure bat speed now? They do. Baseball Savant, you can go and look. They got every player's bat speed converted to miles per hour. Salvador Perez's bat speed last year was 73.2 miles per hour, his average bat speed, which is pretty good. It's not top of the pops, but it's pretty darn good. His average bat speed this year, 73.0. And both of those numbers, by the way, are higher than his measured average bat speed in 2022. Or 2023, excuse me, when they started keeping track of this. So the bat speed is the same. That's the first thing you think about when you think about an old player diminishing offensively. Well, is the bat slowing down? No, not really. Average exit velocity is down this year for Salvador Perez, but not like in a huge way. Last year it was 91.1 miles per hour average velocity off the bat. This year it's 90.4. So down like less than half a mile or just over half a mile per hour. But he is compensated for that, Salvador Perez, by hitting the ball hard more frequently. We talked about barrels yesterday, how the Royals as a team have one of the worst barrel percentages in baseball. Well, Salvador Perez's percentage of barrels, optimally hit baseballs by exit velocity and launch angle, that's actually gone up this year for Sal. It's gone up a full percent from 12.2 to 13.3. And his percentage of hard hit batted balls is exactly the same, 44.8%, as it was last year. So, no, I don't think Salvador Perez is slowing down. We had talked about at the beginning of the year, it felt like he was hitting into a lot of bad luck. And you can look at his expected numbers if you want to run through all of that stuff, and it will show you a batter who has run into some bad luck this year. But the physical ability to get the bat through the zone and make hard contact, that really hasn't been diminished. Like, I was a little surprised to see, in fact, just how similar it was from 2024 to 2025, because I knew that the advanced numbers were telling me, okay, Salvador has been unlucky this year. He's lost a few home runs based on his ballpark. He's been one of the unluckiest hitters, in fact, in terms of expected home runs this year. We talked about that a couple of weeks back on this show. But by and large, he can get the bat through the zone the same way he always has been able to. And he makes hard contact just as often. And in fact, in some respects, he's hitting the ball square more so than he was last year. So I do think that the Salvador Perez we've seen the last 34 games, which is the Salvador Perez I think you were hoping to get this season, the Salvador Perez that you needed for this Royals team to have a chance to contend and make the playoffs, I do think we're going to see that. Because it's one thing for me to sit here and say, he's an old guy, he'll warm up with the weather. That's an old wives' tale. I wanted to get into the numbers. And the numbers, well, he is warming up with the weather. But he's warming up with the weather because all year long, he's been able to swing the bat the same way and make the same kind of contact. And for better or for worse, because again, the negative stuff about Sal, the outs, the chasing pitches out of the zone, that's who he is. And in some respects, he would not be the player that he is if he were any different. You've always needed to take the good with the bad when it comes to Salvador Perez at the plate. And thankfully, last month and change, it's been a lot more good than bad. If that keeps up, that's going to give this Royals offense a chance to get back steered in the right direction in the final 3 months. We're going to hard pivot when we come back here on 580 Sports Talk. We're going to go from Royals to Chiefs and continue our countdown to Chiefs kickoff because number 65 is Trey Smith. I'm going to tell you what I love about Trey Smith, why I think Trey Smith is such a cool player in Chiefs history, what the lineage that he follows. We're going to talk about that next here as we continue on this Wednesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. It's 3:44 on 580 Sports Talk, and it's time to continue our countdown to Kansas City Chiefs kickoff. It's been a fun segment to do. We're at 65 days away from Chiefs Chargers in Brazil, week 1 of the 2025 season, Friday night, September 5th. I was just about to say only on Peacock, but that's not right. It's only on YouTube. That'll be fun. You can watch 580 Sports Talk on YouTube, and then you just click over and you can watch the pregame show and the Chiefs game. Very same platform. That's great. We'll be great lead-in programming that night, Friday, September 5th. I can promise you that. Anyway, we're 65 days out from kickoff between the Chiefs and the Chargers, and number 55, or 65, excuse me, for the Chiefs is Trey Smith. And Trey Smith, of course, is waiting on a new contract. The Chiefs and Smith are still negotiating. The deadline is July 15th. That's when you have to come to a long-term extension with a player on the franchise tag, as Smith currently is. If the Chiefs and Smith do not come to an agreement, Smith will be on the tag. All $23-odd million will count against the salary cap this year. And then after next season, it would be a different song and dance. So I have always been of the mind that a deal will get done. Everybody we've talked to, Matt Derrick, our Chiefs insider, Matt Verderam, everybody we have talked to who is in the know or knows someone who is in the know, the understanding has been that a deal is going to get done for Trey Smith. And I understand why you take it to the hilt, because if you're Trey Smith, you want to make sure this is the deal that is the contract for your career. I was looking at contract details across the NFL over at Spotrac. Of the top 21 contracts for guards in the NFL, the 21 highest paid players of the position, that's 21 guards in the league right now who make $10 or more million per year, average annual value of $10 million or more. Only 2 of those guards signed their contracts in their 30s. Only 2. Joel Bitonio of the Browns, Joe Thuney, of course, formerly of the Chiefs, now the Bears. But those are the only guys of the crop of guards right now who are making big money, who signed their big contract, a big contract, in their 30s. Everybody else got the big deal in their 20s. And Trey Smith is 25 years old. This is his time to go and sign a 4 or 5 year deal and make the most money that he can. And I don't think any of us would begrudge Trey Smith for making sure that the money, the number before that first of the 2 commas before the decimal point in the average annual value is as big as it can possibly be. And that guarantee, that number before the 2 commas that come before the decimal point, is as big as it can possibly be, because he's a good enough player. He's a good enough guy. He's earned it, and this is his chance to get it. And they're going to make sure that they can squeeze every drop, and they ought to. They ought to try to squeeze every drop out of the Chiefs on this. But as we've said on this show many times, deadline spur action, and I would be very surprised, and again, everybody in the know would be very surprised that July 15th deadline were to pass and Trey Smith was not on a long-term extension. I'm a big fan of Trey Smith, player and as a person. I think as a player, you're talking about one of the best guards in the league. Pro Football Focus rated him the 14th best guard in the NFL last year, and exemplary in both run blocking and pass blocking. So he really doesn't have a weakness as a player, doesn't commit a ton of penalties, typically keeps his cool and his calm. If anything, he maybe has struggled at times compensating for some of the lesser moments for his right tackle, Jawan Taylor. And I think that with more consistent right tackle play next to him, whether we see it this season or in years to come, we will see even better performance from Trey Smith at right guard. But what I really like about Trey Smith, what I think is really cool about Smith, as far as Smith and the Chiefs, is that he follows in a really cool lineage of great Chiefs guards who also happen to be exceptional human beings. Go back to Will Shields, Walter Payton Award winner, Man of the Year, guard, Kansas City Chiefs. Brian Waters, Walter Payton, Man of the Year Award winner, guard for the Kansas City Chiefs. Laurent Duvernay-Tardif, guard, Kansas City Chiefs. Now, he didn't win Walter Payton Man of the Year, but he threw away a year of his, throw away is not the way to say this, but he gave away, he sacrificed a year of his NFL career in the COVID season because his skills off the field as a medical doctor were more necessary than his skills on the field as an offensive guard. Service over self, one of the ultimate service over self moves for any NFL player in modern history. And Trey Smith is cut from that cloth. He has not been nominated yet for Walter Payton Man of the Year by the Chiefs. Travis Kelce was their nominee last year. It was Mahomes a couple of years before that. It was Tyrann Mathieu, I believe, in Trey Smith's rookie year. But I think that Smith and some of the work that he does in the community, he volunteers National Blood Clot Association because that was something that very nearly ended his pro career before it began, something he dealt with when he was playing college football at Tennessee. His work there has been exemplary. The next negative thing you hear about Trey Smith will be the first. Obviously, he was wonderful in a moment of real horror and terror with some young fans during the chaos that ensued after the shooting at the Super Bowl parade back a year and a half ago. It's just a great guy, somebody you like to root for because he's a good dude, in addition to being a mauler and one of the best players in the NFL at his position. And here's another path where I think he's got a chance to follow both Shields and Waters, not just as maybe someday winning Walter Payton Man of the Year. I think he's capable of that too. But year 5 for Will Shields, he was a second-team All-Pro, first All-Pro selection of his career. Year 5 for Brian Waters, first-team All-Pro. It was the first All-Pro selection of his career. I think this can be an all-pro season for Trey Smith. And I think that with the departure of Joe Thuney in particular and the youth movement that will ensue on the left side of the offensive line, now is the time for Trey Smith to become a real leader up front. And I believe him to be more than capable of that. And assuming, and this is no disrespect to Creed Humphrey, who I think is either the best or second best center in the game, depending on who you ask, there's a chance for Trey Smith to assume the mantle of the best guy on that offensive line. Kind of like Shields and Waters were for a lot of years in Kansas City. And for him to not just assume that mantle, but to play like it. And to get that all-pro nod after getting his first Pro Bowl nod of his career last year. And I think he's going to do it on a handsome new contract, too. That's going to make him, I think, the highest paid guard in the NFL. Highest average annual value for a contract right now is $21 million for Chris Lindstrom of the Falcons. And I do believe what Trey Smith gets will exceed that. I think probably 21.5 seems like a decent number to come to. I really have to believe that there's a lot of I dotting and T crossing that is left rather than real animus between the sides. But get your money, Trey Smith, because this is the time for guards to get their money in their mid-20s. And I think he's going to get his money. I think he's going to be really exceptional for the Chiefs in 2025. There may be some concerns and some question marks elsewhere on the roster, but one thing I don't worry about, 65. I don't worry about him at all. We'll take a timeout, come back, wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk right after this. Wrapping up this 3 o'clock hour of 580 Sports Talk. Send some prayers, some thoughts, some well wishes to a legend. Red Panda was injured last night doing her halftime act at halftime of the WNBA's, I believe they call it the Commissioner's Cup championship game between Minnesota and Indiana. Won by the Fever, by the way, in case you were curious. Red Panda fell off her unicycle like a minute into the production. Fell off the unicycle. You know Red Panda. She's the one with the unicycle and the bowls. Maybe you've gotten a chance to see her live. Anyone who has will never forget it. It is an all-time great halftime routine. And she fell off the unicycle last night, which is like a cursed thing to consider, just a horrifying thing to imagine watching. She was able to get to her feet and try to walk off the court, but ultimately took a ride on a wheelchair back to the beneath the bleachers and was taken to a local hospital. So, boy, I hope Red Panda's okay. Hope she can get back on her feet and back on the bike and back kicking those bowls onto her head, and that we can see her again, perhaps in Lawrence or Manhattan this coming college basketball season. There are some really good halftime acts out there. Some of them are repeaters. Like I've seen the guy with his little Chihuahua dog and all the little tricks that they do. I forget what the dog's name is. Spanky, Sparky, something like that. I don't know. But I've seen that guy, I feel like 3 times, all at K-State games. Like, there's some of those halftime acts. They come, they go. I'm always happy to see Frisbee dogs, all that. But, man, when it's Red Panda, that's bad for concessions because you are not getting out of your seat when Red Panda performs. So I hope she's okay. I hope she's doing well, and hope that she's back for the next college basketball season for sure. Coming up in the 4 o'clock hour, Tim Fitzgerald will join me. We'll talk Big 12 best players and what is wrong with you. That's all coming up. 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Hour number 2, 580 Sports Talk on a Wednesday. Great to be with you here until 6 o'clock tonight on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com. And we are streaming on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and on our Facebook page, WIBW News. However you are consuming the program, whenever you are consuming the program, whether you're catching us live or archived podcast form, just appreciate you listening. We know you have a choice in your entertainment options. You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us. You're here with me. I'm Dan Lucero, and I'm the only one here. Thank you for being here with me on this Wednesday. Appreciate you all very much here on 580 Sports Talk. Want to hear from you as we go along. Get at me on the text line, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. Can also interact in the chat on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk's the name of the channel. Go subscribe to the channel if you have not yet. It's a great way to, one, consume the show because you can watch it live. You can rewind. They have not yet figured out a way really to like rewind when you're listening in the car on the radio, unless they have. Maybe they have. The cars are really complex these days. So maybe you can rewind me. I have no idea. But it's a lot easier to do it on if you're watching the YouTube live stream. You can pause and rewind and all that fun stuff. And you can watch the video on archive. And you can be in the chat on YouTube. Who doesn't want to be in the chat? It's a big party. Everybody's there to have a good time. Interact with each other and interact with your host, singular today, with Spencer Dupuy on vacation, Brendan Wierzinski off today, though keep an ear to the streets. You might be hearing Brendan a little bit later on in the show today. But we appreciate everybody who is in the chat here. Apparently, they have started assigning like crowns and numbers, like rankings to the people who listen to the show. I didn't know. That has to be a YouTube thing because that's not anything that I have done or that anybody else here pushed the button on. And typically I don't watch the show live on YouTube because I'm doing the show, so I don't really have a feel for like I'm trying to actually look at it right now. Looks like some of you guys have crowns and numerals next to their names, and I don't know how that's determined. I don't know how you can make your number go up or your number go down. I genuinely don't have any idea how any of that stuff works. But congratulations to I guess congratulations are in order if you've got one of the crowns there next to your name. Shout out to anybody with a crown. So I guess that's the thing. You can go and turn it into a role-playing game now. Now it's been gamified. Everything is a game now. You can't just post for the love of the game. You got to get like clout. You got to get points. You got to get crowns. Stack your XP or whatever it is. Just watching a show on the YouTube. But go for it. Go stack that XP. Go get you a crown in the chat on our YouTube stream. 580 Sports Talk. Appreciate everybody who is listening along today, watching along. I have been accused, rather unfairly, by the 785 on the text line of picking my favorite YouTubers and assigning them the crowns. I had nothing to do with it. My hands are clean to this one. I swear to God. It's like I told the YouTube commentariat earlier today. Every one of you who, if you are on the YouTube right now, if you have ever watched a show on the YouTube, commented, you're all number one in my heart. That is sincere. That is absolutely sincere. Anyhow, let's get back into the program today. With the second hour of the show, we got Tim Fitzgerald going to join us in about 20, 30 minutes or so for the Wildcat Wrap-up. We'll get Fitz's perspective on the latest K-State happenings and certainly plenty to discuss with Fitz, including the fact that K-State did not, in fact, land Ian Premer from Great Bend. We'll ask how that happened, and it could be a very simple answer. Kid wanted to go to Notre Dame. That's a totally acceptable answer. Of course, you throw around rumor and innuendo, but we typically are able to cut through that with Tim Fitzgerald. So he'll join us. We'll talk to Fitz a little bit later on in the show here this hour. Also got What Is Wrong With You coming up, 2 new stories, trying to take down yesterday's winner, which I have dubbed Cup, Cone, or Cap. The guy who threatened to shoot the ice cream man because he thought he was being weird with kids when all he was doing was taking payment on Cash App or Apple Pay with his phone. So that's all still to come. And we're going to talk about the best Big 12 players, according to EA Sports, here in just a little bit as well. Again, the text line, 785-272-9429. You got the live chat, as I've mentioned, going on YouTube. Anybody out there as fired up for the release of College Football 26 as I am? I want to hear from you if you are. The new EA Sports college football video game brought back after 11 years last year. I enjoyed it immensely, even though my playing time was dramatically decreased due to being the parent of an infant. And I expect a similar decrease in my possible playing time for College Football 26, but I'm still going to get it. I'm still going to be in line. I am not a big video game guy, but I am a big sports video game guy. Like, that's it. Like, I know there are people out there like, you play, Fortnite or Call of Duty, Halo, games like that, the shooting games, the adventure games. I was never really big into those, but I bought the new sports games every year like clockwork. When I was a kid, I would stack my pennies and I would buy the new Madden and I would buy the new college football. And every now and again, I'd buy a basketball game, and I'd always buy the hockey game because me and my brother and my dad like to play the hockey game. And buy the new baseball game in the spring and take the old ones to GameStop when the year was over and get my $13 for all 5 of the old games I wasn't going to play anymore, and start the process all over again. That was always such a deflating feeling. You go to GameStop, you got like a stack of games. Oh, man, they got to give me at least $30 for Nagano Olympics 1998. Nah, man, $3.68. Take it or leave it. It's an experience everybody my age who's ever owned a video game console knows all too well. But anyway, I'm excited for it. I'm looking forward to playing the game. Want to hear from you if you are, or if you're not, that's fine too. Want to hear from the crowd on that. But the reason I bring it up is because EA Sports is starting to put together the hype machine for this year's edition of the college football video game. CFB 26 releases July 10th. That, coincidentally, is the day after Big 12 Media Days wraps up. And as part of the hype train rolling down the track, so yesterday EA Sports released the top 100 players and the top 20 quarterbacks by their player rating in the game. I'll start with the Big 12 players. The top 11. There are 11 Big 12 players in the top 100. So naturally, this is just one way to look at who might be the best players in the Big 12. At the top of the list, 2 players are rated a 94 overall, and they are Arizona State wide receiver Jordan Tyson. Absolutely no arguments there. He cut K-State to pieces last year. Also cut KU to pieces last year. He had it for everybody in the Sunflower State. If Wichita State had a football team, he would have come and given them that work too. It must have been personal. He must not like the state of Kansas. I don't know what the state of Kansas ever did to that young man, but he absolutely tore the Jayhawks and the Wildcats to ribbons. He is a 94 overall on the new video game. That makes him the highest rated skill player in the Big 12. And in fact, one of just 3 skill players from the Big 12 in the top 100. The other Big 12 player with a 94 overall ranking is Utah right tackle Spencer Fano, who was a first-team all-conference performer as a sophomore last year. Utah lineman, returning starter, yeah, that adds up. David Bailey is the highest-ranked defensive player in the conference. He is a defensive end for Texas Tech. If that is not a name you remember from last year, Texas Tech has a lot of guys like that because, of course, they have that massive transfer portal class, number one transfer portal class in the country. David Bailey's a huge part of that. He left Stanford after Troy Taylor resigned or was fired in the offseason, and he became like the man in demand for the transfer portal. And Texas Tech cut him a good check, and they got him. And so Bailey, who last year had 6 sacks, 31 tackles, he comes to Texas Tech. He'll be a big part of that defense. He is the top-rated defensive player in the conference. He's a 93 overall. There are 5 players in the Big 12 who are 92s overall, including the only K-State player in the top 100. Hand up if you guessed it was Dylan Edwards. Put your hand down. You're wrong. Hand up if you guessed it was Avery Johnson. Put your hand down. You're also wrong. Austin Romaine, K-State's leading tackler last year, is not only the highest rated Kansas State Wildcat on the EA Sports College Football 26 roster. He is one of the highest rated linebackers on the entire game as well. He's a top 5 rated linebacker in the entire game. And good for Austin. I think that's deserved. I genuinely think that he is, I will say, one of the 2 best off-ball linebackers in the conference. And I will say that without any hesitation. Keaton Thomas was first-team all-conference at Baylor last year. He's not on this list. But Romaine, who was second-team all-conference last year, is. So shout out to Austin Romaine. I think that when you talk about this K-State defense, and K-State as a team has one of the highest rated defenses in the upcoming video game, Romaine being at the middle of it, being sort of the nucleus of it, right there, middle linebacker, a 3-down guy, is a big part of why I think a lot of people believe that this K-State defense can have success this year. The other players ranked behind Romaine, TCU free safety Bud Clark, who was second-team all-conference last year. The Godfather, Cincinnati defensive tackle Dante Corleone. And then 2 head-scratchers. Tanner Koziol is a tight end at Houston. He transferred in from Ball State. He was first-team All-MAC last year and was really productive as a tight end. Surprised to see that he has that kind of rating. That's kind of fascinating. But yeah, Tanner Koziol of Houston, and Jordan Seaton, the sophomore left tackle from Colorado, who was number 1 recruit in the country at his position and started every game as a true freshman. I think he's good. I don't know that he's one of the best offensive linemen in the country, but I think he's good. Anyway, rounding out the 11 players in the top 100 from the Big 12, according to EA Sports, Texas Tech outside linebacker Jacob Rodriguez, and then a pair of Arizona State Sun Devils quarterback Sam Levitt and safety Xavion Alford, who was first-team all-conference last year. If anybody, I would bump Alford up. Him getting only a 91 while Bud Clark got a 92, I don't know. I would take Alford over Clark without thinking too hard. Anyway, that's where... that is the list of players that EA Sports thinks are the best in the Big 12. As far as guys I think they forgot, I mentioned Keaton Thomas, who first-team all-conference from Baylor last year. That would be one guy. Lee Hunter is another defensive lineman from Texas Tech, who was second-team all-league at UCF last year. Interior havoc creator, game wrecker. I like Lee Hunter a lot. Surprised that he wasn't on this list. But otherwise, I think that's a fair accounting of who the best players in the Big 12 are. What I think is really interesting, though, is that among the game's top 20 ranked quarterbacks, and we can trim the list to a top 19, because one of them is Jake Retzlaff. And wherever he plays in 2025, we know it's not going to be BYU. Because of the honor code violation that he committed, and a suspension forthcoming that would cost him more than half the season has convinced him to transfer. So toss Retzlaff on the side for a second. He may not play at all. It may be too late for him to find a place to play for this coming season. I don't know. Like, if you're Retzlaff, wouldn't you just ride it out? Like, it's too late to go somewhere else. Wouldn't you just, unless maybe part of the settlement and the civil suit getting waived against him was him agreeing to maybe transfer out of the state of Utah. But anyway, let's set him aside and just look at the top 19 quarterbacks on the video game. 5 of them are in the Big 12. Am I out of line to think that the Big 12 could have the best collection of quarterbacks in the country in 2025? I'm going to go through, I've got the Phil Steele manual in front of me. I'm going to go through the SEC, the all-conference quarterbacks in the SEC as predicted by Phil Steele. He does 4 all-conference preseason teams, a first, second, third, and fourth team. His quarterbacks are LSU's Garrett Nussmeier, Texas's Arch Manning, South Carolina's Lenore Sellers, and Oklahoma's John Mateer. And now all of those guys are good players. We think Arch Manning's going to be really good. That's a little bit more concept or theory than concept still. But Nussmeier's got an exceptional arm. Sellers is a great two-way player. John Mateer is a chaos demon who makes plays. Sometimes they're for the other team, but he makes plays. Diego Pavia didn't make the list. He's maybe the most fun quarterback to watch in the whole country. Speaking of chaos demons at Vanderbilt. But like those are the top 4 SEC quarterbacks, according to Phil Steele. If you go to the Big 10 and you look at who Phil Steele thinks are the 4 best quarterbacks in the Big 10 this year, you've got Drew Aller from Penn State, who I still don't think is actually good. I really don't think he's all that good. He was better last year. I thought he was really iffy 2 years ago. Last year he was better, but to me that's, I don't know. I think maybe I'm got too much NFL brain when I think of Drew Aller, but I think he's going to get a GM fired when they take him too high in the NFL draft next year. But second team, Illinois' Luke Altmaier. Third team, Fernando Mendoza for Indiana. He's a transfer from Cal. And fourth team, Nico Iamaleava from UCLA. Those are, in Phil Steele's eyes, the 4 best quarterbacks in the Big 10. In the ACC, Phil Steele's top 4 quarterbacks, Cade Klubnik from Clemson, Kevin Jennings from SMU, Carson Beck, former Georgia quarterback, now at Miami, and Haynes King from Georgia Tech. I actually think that's a decent collection of guys. Haynes King is just sort of a battering ram, a little bit of Colin Klein to his game. Carson Beck took a big step back last year. Cade Klubnik, I still don't know what to make of. Kevin Jennings was dramatically improved last year, but that's like a decent list. You get to the Big 12, and Phil's 4 best quarterbacks, Sawyer Robertson of Baylor, Avery Johnson of Kansas State, Sam Levitt of Arizona State, Rocco Becht at Iowa State. I think I like the Big 12's top 4 as much or better than any other conference's top 4. Am I viewing this through Brett Yormark colored glasses here? Am I overreacting? Because I really do. I think that the best quarterbacks in the Big 12 stand up with the best quarterbacks in any other conference. And then I think the middle class has a chance to be really good. Guys like Brennan Sorsby at Cincinnati, whoever wins the job at Colorado, Baron Morton at Tech, Josh Hoover at TCU. Like, there's ability there. Up and down. Hell, Noah Fafita at Arizona, if he can find his 2023 form, could be as good as anybody. That's a big if. I have some concerns about the direction things are trending in Arizona. But, like, we've seen it be really good for Fafita before. So I really like the Big 12's quarterbacks. The way EA Sports ranked them, Levitt, number 1, with a 91 overall rating in the game. Then Avery Johnson with an 89 overall rating in the game. And then 3 quarterbacks with a rating of 88. Becht, Robertson, and Caden Salter for Colorado, who is the transfer in from Liberty, who was outstanding 2 seasons ago, and last year was a little less outstanding. He was still good, but enough of a step back for Salter to have some questions going into his season at Colorado, including, is he going to win the job in the first place? Because Colorado got that big 5-star out of Georgia, Juju Lewis. So when we talk about perception of the Big 12 and how their perception in some people's eyes, suffered last year because it was teams projected to be in the bottom of the league that ended up playing for the conference championship or contending for a conference championship. I think the perception of the Big 12 ought to be a lot better going into 2025. And not just in the sense that, oh, yeah, it's going to be competitive. Oh, yeah, it's going to be fun. Like, we already knew that. If it took the rest of the country a full year to find that out, that's on them. That's not on the Big 12. That's on them. But I think the perception of the Big 12 for 2025 ought to be helped by the fact that I think you can credibly argue that it is as good a quarterback conference as any in the country. And I'm excited to see the quarterback play and how it develops in the conference. And can Fafita regain some previous form? Can Connor Wegman finally look like a 5-star? Can Nico Marchiol finally look like a high 4-star? Like, new offenses for new offense for Marchiol, new offense for Wegman. Like, there are real opportunities for guys to take big steps forward this year. And it all starts with the quarterbacks, right? So the quality of play in the conference, in any conference, is so much predicated on quarterback play. And it's why I'm really excited for this Big 12 season, one of many reasons, because I think it's got as good a quarterback conference as there is in the country. And that's even without Retzlaff playing at BYU this year. We'll take another break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, another round of What Is Wrong With You, 580 WIBW. What is wrong with you on 580 Sports Talk? Sponsored by our guy, Mo, State Farm agent Ryan Mo Winkle. Check out his website, Ryan Mo Winkle. That's MOHWINKLE.com. We are joined for What is Wrong with You? Oh, my God, it's Brendan Dworzynski. Brendan, hi. We're good. I'm good. How are you? It is. It's so good. We're so glad to have you for What is Wrong with You on this Wednesday. Yes, new decor, the whole thing. You probably didn't even recognize it in there, to be honest with you. Totally unrecognizable. So, our current champion on What is Wrong with You, our first one for the month of July, is one I'm calling Cup, Cone, or Cap. And that would be because it was a gentleman who beat up and threatened to shoot an ice cream man because he thought he was being weird with kids. But all the guy was doing was like taking payments and giving the kids like his business card and letting them know they could like call him anytime to come deliver ice cream. Now, I brought this story to my wife, and she also thought that was kind of weird behavior by the ice cream man.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, that's how we do business on our phones these days, man. Just trying to make quick buck and sell
the Square app.
Sell chipwiches to the community, you know?
I'd buy a chipwich from a dude out of a van, man. Those are delicious.
Yeah, like as long as it's a well-marked ice cream truck, like a legit, it's not just like spray-painted ice cream on the side of his truck. Because these are legitimate businessmen that we're talking about here. Don't beat up the ice cream man.
No, a little extreme.
What have you got today for us on What Is Wrong With You, Brendan?
All right, my story is going to take us to Miami. You know the scene in Ferris Bueller's Day Off where they valet Cameron's dad's car?
Yeah, and then they all joyride on it?
Yeah. Well, a valet attendant for a high-rise apartment building in Miami's Brickell neighborhood was arrested early Monday morning after he took off in a resident's vehicle. It was real-life Ferris Bueller's Day Off. According to an arrest report from the Miami PD, the incident occurred shortly after 3 a.m. Police say the victim told officers he had dropped off his car with the valet, Augusto Traz of Miami, outside the apartment building, but instead of going up to his apartment, he walked down the street to the Brickell smoke shop to pick up some cigarettes. And according to the report, as he was leaving the store, he saw Traz speeding excessively in his vehicle, nearly hitting the building at one point. The victim obtained surveillance video capturing Traz's actions. He pulled out his phone. According to the arrest report, the valet attendant admitted to something, although they redacted his exact statement. He was arrested on a charge of grand theft of a motor vehicle, a.k.a. grand theft auto. As of Monday afternoon, Traz was being held at the Turner Guilford Correctional Center. His bond is still yet to be set.
I wonder how many times he's done that and not gotten caught.
I can own a million. That's the thing about getting caught, like in general, but certainly with car crimes, it's never the first time.
No,
right?
No, it's never the first time.
This guy got busted for a DUI. How many times had he done that before he got caught? You know this dude's been doing it. 2 a.m., guy drops off his car. He's probably beat. He's going to go and run up to his place real quick, fall asleep. Guy's probably doing joyrides every night.
Yeah, you got to watch the odometer, though. You can't be out there and making it real obvious on the odometer.
Got to put it up on blocks and put it in reverse.
That's the lesson from Ferris Bueller for sure. For my story today, we're going to Madisonville, Kentucky, where a man is in jail after setting a home on fire. Ew. Officers were dispatched to a residential fire on Hanson Street after fire crews found Molotov cocktails on scene.
What?
These Molotov cocktails were made out of Monster energy drink cans. The most Kentucky crime I can possibly imagine. While officers were searching the area for more possible Molotov cocktails, they found one of them at another location. Officers continued to search the location, found multiple Monster energy drinks, along with a gasoline container with 4 liquid shots around it from where the gasoline was spilled, trying to fill something up. Officials say officers spoke with the victim and her son, who live at the home and were home at the time of the incident. The victim says she is the payee for her neighbor, Clyde Bymaster. Officers eventually made contact with Bymaster in order to question him about the incident. Bymaster was questioned and informed officers that he made the Molotov cocktails using gasoline and then threw them at the resident because he was upset. He was placed under arrest, transported to the Hopkins County Detention Center, and being charged with first-degree arson. Well, they don't always close cases that easily.
No,
we're on the trail. We've got a suspect. Oh, we've got a confession and a motive. Well,
I love this. Like, send them a mean text, confront them in person. Put out a mean tweet. No, I'm just going to throw Molotov cocktails at your place. At the crib.
Out of Monster energy drink bottles is so crazy.
Dude, that's so many monsters, though. That's a lot of energy drink.
How much one of those costs? I'm not a big, like, energy drink guy, but if you're getting, like, one of the big cans, because I assume it's not like a little 12-ounce can of Monster. It's like one of the tall boys. I don't think they sell pounders of Monster. Maybe they should.
Let's see.
But, yeah, what
$4?
Jeez.
Is that what it is here for a 24-ouncer or a 20-ouncer?
That's wild.
Yeah, man. I don't drink them either.
Typically, a Molotov cocktail, like you get like alcohol and a clear bottle and do some real damage.
No, this dude was also going to like go to a rave and eat Cheetos while doing it.
It's really fun. We have some good names from the comments. Vance refers to this one as the Power Drink Pyro, which is good. Also from the 316 on the text line, Monster Tov cocktails.
Yeah, I like that one. Yeah, that's a good one.
We have that. Then we also have what texter from the 785 refers to as your story, Grand Theft Stupidity.
Yeah,
man,
agreed.
Tough break.
By the way, speaking of Grand Theft Auto, one of my favorite weapons in the game, Vice City was my Grand Theft Auto of choice. The Molotov cocktail. A lot of fun to use, though.
They've got to put, I know they're coming out with a new one eventually, one of these days. They got to put the Monster Tov cocktail
definitely
in there. Who wins today?
I am going to go with the Joyrider here.
Really?
You got to make sure the guy's upstairs. You're at the door. Watch him go inside. This was very easy to avoid. Wait like 10 more minutes, you would have gotten away with it.
That's true. On the other hand, this guy made Molotov cocktails out of Monster Energy drinks.
Yeah, that's true. All right, I'll flip. I'll flip to the Monster cocktails.
Does that beat beating up the ice cream man? I think it might.
Yeah, I think so. I'm going to say yes. Kind of weird behavior. I get it. But also, that's business in 2025, man.
That's true. I'm not defending the butt kicking and the threatening to shoot, but at the same time, I do understand a degree of vigilance after having had some time to consider it. So, Monster Tov cocktails, our new winner for the week on What Is Wrong With You, sponsored by our guy Mo, State Farm agent Ryan Mo Winkle. So good to see you, Brendan.
Good to see you, man. Good to see you guys too.
We will take a timeout, come back with Tim Fitzgerald. GoPowerCat.com. That's coming up next on 580 Sports Talk. We are joined on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline by Tim Fitzgerald to GoPowerCat.com, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Become a VIP subscriber today and get the inside info on the Cats from Fitz and the outstanding staff at GoPowerCat.com. Fitz, we were talking about video games and in particular the new college football video game. And the highest rated player for the K-State Wildcats on the new edition of the college football video game is Austin Romaine. And I think that might surprise people who do not maybe follow K-State football. But how important is Austin Romaine to the function of that defense and K-State's hopes in 2025?
You know, he's a very K-State story in the fact that nobody was talking about Austin Romaine when that recruiting class landed. And he wasn't even the first freshman they tried at linebacker. Ethan Newsome came in and injured his knee. And so they went through Austin Romaine, who now might just be the best middle linebacker in all of college football. He has emerged as an amazing player. I'm doing some fun lists with my daily deliveries. I'm going to start another list tomorrow. But I listed the players who are best at their position. And he was number one. He was above Avery. This dude is a beast, and he's highly intelligent, and he is an NFL linebacker.
As we discussed the college football 26 player ratings, we were also talking about quarterback play in the Big 12. Avery Johnson, for the record, is the second highest rated quarterback in the Big 12 and one of the top 20 in the entire game. But looking at the list of quarterbacks in the Big 12, and even though it did take a hit with the likely transfer of Jake Ratzlaff out of BYU, I kind of feel like the Big 12 could be one of the best quarterback conferences in the country. Am I looking through things through like some Brett Yormark colored glasses here, or is this really one of the best quarterback conferences in the country, given how many guys have starting experience coming back to their same programs, how many guys have big time recruiting pedigrees who are now in new offenses? I think this is potentially the best quarterback conference in the country, the Big 12 this year.
Yeah, it has been. You just roll back to last season. You look across college football. You've got Dylan Gabriel at Oregon and Ewers at Texas and Will Howard at Ohio State. Those three dudes had been in the Big 12 the year before. It's just been a really good quarterback conference. And I think a big part of it is the offenses they run are a little bit more balanced, and they can allow quarterbacks to do whatever they're best at. And they're not trying to force quarterbacks that are pocket passers to run or vice versa. I think the quarterback play in this conference is really good. And I'm curious who was rated over Avery, because I would imagine Avery is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the country this year, and there's a lot of good ones in the Big 12, but I think he'll be probably the best one if he plays up to where he can play.
It was just Leavitt, for the record. Leavitt was the only at Arizona State, the only quarterback with a higher ranking than Avery on the game. And then it was Robertson and Becht and Caden Salter, who were right behind. And Salter's interesting because he was really good at Liberty 2 years ago, but he was just kind of okay at Liberty last year. But again, new offense, new opportunity. He's probably playing with better skill guys and linemen at Colorado this year than he was at Liberty. That's a fascinating case too. We're talking to Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com. He joins us every week at this time for the Wildcat Wrap-up. Fitz, Ian Premer's not coming to Kansas State. What happened?
He played this recruitment exceedingly tight to the vest. And I know that K-State thought they had him. They had indications from where I don't know that it was going to be the choice. But he apparently was locked in on Notre Dame, and nobody knew it. So it kind of stinks for K-State fans. They had a lot of emotion invested in that recruitment. But, a kid getting to play tight end at Notre Dame, it's a pretty big deal. They put out some pretty good tight ends through the years. So these kids got to make the choices that are best for them. And luckily for K-State, it wasn't really a position of need. He was just too good to pass up. And I'm not sure they'll take another tight end. They'll add one in. Lawson McGraw can play tight end, but I think they prefer him on the defensive side. So it'll be they still need a cornerstone type of player. It's a really solid class, but you don't have that featured piece that you've had the last 2 years with Avery Johnson and Lincoln Kier.
Is this, to your belief and your understanding, a closed recruitment, or is Kansas State going to stay in the picture as much as they can with Bremer, just in case the lure of being at home becomes a factor later on down the road?
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I think there's a couple of kids that they'll be hanging around on, and these kids are committing. So they get it done in the summer before their senior year, but when their senior year happens, and what if Notre Dame falls off the end of the table? I don't think they will, but what if they end up at a 7-5 type season after playing for a national championship? Does that change a kid's mind, or are you locked in on it? I know K-State will keep pursuing some of these kids, and he will be one of those.
You make an interesting point about a recruiting class centerpiece. And 2 years ago, certainly Avery Johnson was the crown jewel of that high school class. And last year, it was Lincoln Cure who was the jewel of the class. Does that player necessarily have to be a high school recruit, or could K-State maybe find a transfer or somebody like that who would be the crown jewel when it came to what you were adding to, looking a year out to 2026?
Yeah, I mean, particularly if it's a kid that maybe, like a Jayshon Ross that redshirted as a freshman year somewhere, and now is coming into play 4 years. That certainly is a possibility. But I think also the coaches would like that kind of built-in, emphasis on one guy in this class. I don't know if that's a good way to explain it, but someone to really hang your hat on. And I just don't know if they're going to have that right now. Maybe that will develop as the season goes on, and like you said, they might flip someone who might surprise us.
Talking to Tim Fitzgerald of GoPowerCat.com, joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline as we discuss all things Wildcats on a Wednesday here on 580 Sports Talk. Let's go from football recruiting to basketball recruiting. K-State taking a big swing at a 5-star recruit, Jalen Montanati. He made an official visit to Manhattan, and your Ryan Gilbert had a chance to catch up with him. That's VIP content, so I'll let the people that are subscribers go check that out. But what is your impression of K-State's chances with Montanati, and what kind of player or what kind of addition could he be to Jerome Tang's program?
A really good player. I don't have a feel for this one. I just don't. You're dealing with 5-star kids, and you never can quite be sure what their motivation is. Do they want to go play at that storied program? A lot of them do. I don't blame them. Do they just want as much NIL possibility, even in the new form of it, where it's got to be literally name, image, and likeness usage? It's hard to know what really does force the hand of these top recruits in basketball. Maybe it's the coach. Maybe it's the drinking water in the town. It's almost impossible for me to understand where these kids are going, but I will keep a close eye on this one.
Sounds like he might have a previous relationship with David Castillo. They're both Oklahoma kids. Montanati's from Owasso. As the program looks to, like Jerome Tang's program, looks to sort of regrow that high school recruiting pipeline, how important are those kinds of relationships to K-State starting to get back into those living rooms of those 4 or 5-star high school recruits that they'd like to build long-term around?
Yeah, I think it's important. And anyone within the region knows more about K-State basketball than maybe a kid from Chicago or whatever. They know that the crowds are crazy and the teams have been pretty good in the past. I'd like to see them more in Kansas City, to be real honest. I think they were falling down the same path of ignoring the backyard talent to go get other players. I watched too many kids through the years come out of Kansas City and go to other programs and help and turn out to be better than any player K-State had signed in that group. And so I hope they do put a little more emphasis in our own little backyard over there in Kansas City.
We're talking to Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com. He joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on 580 Sports Talk. I asked this same question to your 24/7 sports compatriot Michael Swain, who works over at fog.net. I want to ask you this question because you've started and some of your other Go Power Cat compatriots have started to make the podcast rounds a little bit as we get excited about previewing football for 2025. What is, from a national perspective, the big question people have about K-State this year? To your understanding, what do you think is that question that nationally is the biggest discussion point for K-State football this year?
Probably that offensive line. How will it pull together? I mean, last year's line wasn't really up to K-State standards, what we typically see. The tackles have to be better than a year ago. And I think, that's a legitimate argument that the uncertainty on the line, if it doesn't work out for K-State, it's going to be really hard to overcome. But if they get it right, this could be a really fun offense, too, that can operate through the air or on the ground.
And finally, Fitz, Big 12 football media days next week at the Star in Frisco, Texas. We'll talk about it more on the program here a little bit, but the contingents for all 16 teams, the player contingents were announced yesterday. K-State is going to travel Avery Johnson, Taylor Poitier, Cody Stufflebean, Des Purnell, and VJ Payne. Who are you most interested in hearing from taking that stage in Frisco?
I'm just a huge Des Purnell fan. I think he's a tremendous young man, self-made, worked his butt off to become at this level. And I hear he's no one to be messed with in the locker room. He is a very strong leader that will climb up people's you-know-what if they're not doing what they should be doing. Every team needs that. If you don't have that, someone that can do that and still be respected, you're probably not as good as you should be. I think the kid is fantastic. I can't believe how good he's gotten, because if you go back to the season when he was pressed into duty, K-State thought it was going to be a major drop-off, and as soon as the kid settled in at playing at linebacker, he proved to be really good, and he just keeps getting better and better. I think he's going to be outstanding this season.
I got a chance because, obviously he's a Topeka kid. He went to Hayden High, and I got a chance to interview him as a high school athlete. And there's a little bit of DJ Giddens to Des Purnell in the sense of he's going to speak softly and carry a big stick. He's got a little bit of that to him where he's content to let his play and what he does do the talking. But I also sense that like DJ a little bit, there's a little bit of an increased comfort level in talking about his own role and where he fits in. So yeah, it's always exciting to get to talk to the local kid, and we'll look forward to hearing from him at Big 12 Media Days next week as well. And we'll look forward to catching up with Tim Fitzgerald to GoPowerCat.com, who joins us every Wednesday for the Wildcat Wrap-up here on the program. Fitz, it is always a pleasure. We'll see if we can't do it again for Frisco next week.
Very good. Sounds good.
That is Tim Fitzgerald. We will step aside for a timeout. When we come back, we will wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk. Our thanks again to Tim Fitzgerald for joining the program for the Wildcat Wrap-up. Always great to catch up with Fitz, get the latest down low from Manhattan. Down low, low down. Could be either one, I suppose. Still to come on the program, we got one more hour to hang out today, and we'll spend some of that time answering your questions. I want your sports questions into the program today, and I will answer any of them. They can be Chiefs, Royals, KU, K-State related or not. They can be personal sports-related questions or not. They can be rules related. They can be what's your favorite hot dog you've ever had at a baseball game. I don't care what it is. I just want to hear from you. So the text line is going to be open. It's always open. 785-272-9429. Text your questions to me to 785-272-9429. You can also drop them in if you are watching the show on YouTube. Our YouTube channel is 580 Sports Talk. Jump in the chat for the final hour. You're not working. It's past 5 o'clock. Your workday's done. Get in the chat. Have some fun with me and your fellow listeners over at our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk. And get your questions in over there, too. And I'll answer as many of them as I get coming up in the 5 o'clock hour of the show. We'll also preview tonight's third game of the 4-game series between the Royals and the Mariners. It's a big one because if the Royals can win it, they guarantee themselves at least a split. Treading water is not going to be good enough eventually for the Royals, but it could be for the week good enough to give themselves a chance to win the series. They got to win tonight. So it's a big one from the Royals' perspective, certainly. Again, we'll have the coverage, 8 o'clock pregame, 8:40 first pitch here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Also, of course, in the final hour of the show, we will have our 580 Sports headlines. It is a slow news day unless you want me to talk a lot of NBA free agency. I don't think you do. So we're going to talk about what we've got out there for headlines. That's all coming up. Stay with us. 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Third and final hour of 580 Sports Talk on this Wednesday afternoon. So glad you're hanging out with us today here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and of course, in living color on our YouTube stream, 580 Sports Talk, and on YouTube. On Facebook, WIBW News. YouTube is 580 Sports Talk. I'm Dan Lucero, looking good, feeling great. How are you? Thanks for being a part of the show today. However you're listening, wherever you're tuning in from, I appreciate so much you being a part of the audience today here on What Is Wrong. Not What Is Wrong with You. 580 Sports Talk. Wow. It's tougher doing this solo than it is doing it with friends. Just in case you didn't know, in case you didn't realize, it's a little tougher doing this solo than it is doing it when you've got company. It's just me today. It'll be just me again for most of the duration tomorrow, probably. Then it'll be me and Spencer eventually again. Spencer Dupuis will be back next week. We're going to get Brendan back next week while I am in Frisco, Texas, for Big 12 Media Days coming up next Tuesday and Wednesday from the Star, the practice facility where the Dallas Cowboys call home. Looking forward to the trip to Dallas. Obviously, we did not, as a concern, make the trip to Vegas last year for last year's Big 12 Media Days, and that was a bummer. But we can make a trip to Dallas, so I'm making the trip to Dallas, and I'll be down there. And for all the next week, we'll be bringing you exclusive interviews with KU, K-State players, other movers and shakers in the Big 12 Conference. Really looking forward to the couple of days down there, and we'll have lots of great interviews and audio for you from Frisco next week here on 580 Sports Talk from Big 12 Media Days. We got one more hour on the show today, and we'll have our headlines, and we'll preview tonight's Royals-Mariners tilt. Royals winners last night, 6-3. A welcome departure from the losing that the Royals have mostly been doing for the better part of the last 2 months. And tonight they'll try and make it 2 in a row with Noah Cameron on the mound. And Noah Cameron has been handled very particularly by manager Matt Quatraro. And I don't think Matt Quatraro can afford to be particular tonight. We'll talk about why when it comes to Noah Cameron. This, of course, assumes that Cameron pitches well. He hasn't had a lot of blow-up outings. He wasn't great against the Dodgers on Friday night. Gave up 5 runs and 4+. But he hasn't had like a lot of nightmare outings where he can't get out of the third or whatever. His ERA is still in the mid-2s. Having a really nice rookie season. And if he goes out and limits damage early and works into the 4th, into the 5th, I don't think you can handle him with kid gloves tonight. So we will talk about that. We'll get you the lineups as well. Of course, pregame coverage tonight on the Royals Baseball Network will start once again at 8 p.m. with the first pitch at 8:40 from T-Mobile Park in Seattle. And we'll catch you right here, 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Also this hour, I want to answer your questions. I will be your answer man, your answer Dan, if you will, coming up here in about 20 minutes or so. I want to take your questions on sports. So this is not quite an Ask Me Anything, which we've done on the show before when we're having some fun late in the show. I want these to be sports questions, but I will answer any and all your sports questions. They can be personal or otherwise. As long as they are sports related, I will answer them. If you've got a question about the Chiefs you want me to weigh in on or the Royals that you want me to weigh in on, I'll do it. It's listener-driven radio. Here in the 5 o'clock hour. I will answer your questions. You just have to get those questions to me. You can text them to me, 785-272-9429. 785-272-9429 is a text line number. You can also leave them in the YouTube comments. I see many of you have already started to get some questions in the YouTube. Appreciate that. Looking forward to answering your questions. I guess the third option would be to mind meld with me through some sort of ESP and communicate to me your questions that way. But in the absence of that working, it's probably a little easier to just text the show, 785-272-9429, or to drop them in the YouTube comments. And like I said, we'll preview Royals Mariners. But I will start with the headlines. It is a slow news day. I'm not going to hold you. It's a slow news day. It's probably going to be a slow news day tomorrow. Most people looking forward to the July 4th weekend. Even like the big stuff in NBA and NHL free agency probably will slow a little bit for the weekend, even though those free agency and off-season periods have just started. So it is a slow news day. I'm not going to lie to you on that end. So we'll start going back to what I was just talking about, Big 12 football media days. Yesterday, the list of participants at this year's Big 12 football media day was released, and we found out who we are going to hear from when we get to Frisco next week. Tuesday, we'll hear from the first half of the conference, the teams that will take the podium on Tuesday will be Arizona State, Baylor, BYU, UCF, Cincinnati, Iowa State, Kansas State, and Texas Tech. Wednesday, Arizona, Colorado, Houston, Kansas, Oklahoma State, TCU, Utah, and West Virginia. Appreciate them splitting up the Kansas teams. That makes for a little more manageable workload for the Kansas media that makes the trip. Anyway, the Kansas State contingent will feature head coach Chris Kleiman, of course, along with quarterback Avery Johnson, offensive lineman Taylor Poitier, defensive end Cody Stufflebean, linebacker Desmond Purnell, Topeka's own, and safety VJ Payne, a 5-player contingent for the Wildcats. I think we've had all of them. Maybe not VJ. I'm trying to remember if we've had VJ on the show. And we may not have actually had Avery either. We might have had Avery once. Definitely talked to Taylor and Cody and Dez. But we'll get a chance to talk to all of those. I'll get a chance to speak with those guys down in Frisco next Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, the KU group of players who will speak with the media includes quarterback Jalen Daniels, center Bryce Foster, defensive end Dean Miller, and defensive tackle DJ Withers. We talked to Dean last year. We've had Jalen on before, of course, JD6. Be interested to see if Jalen makes the trip with a locket with his highlights playing on it, like he did a couple of years back. I don't remember if he went last year, but definitely went 2 years ago. And last time that we had a chance to go and cover the event in person. So that's the contingent for KU and for K-State. Again, K-State's players will talk on Tuesday. KU's players will talk on Wednesday. Other notable players who will be speaking with the media include Arizona State will bring Sam Levitt, Jordan Tyson, and Xavier Alford. Baylor will bring first-team all-conference linebacker Keaton Thomas and their quarterback, Sawyer Robertson. BYU's not bringing a quarterback. Weird. What happened? They will bring wide receiver Chase Roberts. Interested to hear from him. Iowa State's going to bring their QB, Rocco Beck. Cincinnati's going to bring their quarterback, Brendan Sorsby, along with the Godfather, defensive tackle Dante Corleone, and first-team All-Big 12 tight end from last year, Joe Royer. Texas Tech is bringing 6 players, including their 2 big transfer additions to the defensive line, Romello Height and Lee Hunter, along with their quarterback, Baron Morton. On Wednesday, Arizona will bring their QB, Noah Fafita. Colorado's bringing 2 quarterbacks. They're bringing the transfer from Liberty, Caden Salter. They're also bringing the 5-star freshman, Julian Lewis. I think that's pretty interesting. Colorado also the only team to bring their place kicker, Alejandro Mata. Will travel. Deion Sanders is scheduled to be there. I will be interested to see if he does make the trip. I'm sure Frisco's not far from where he resides in the Dallas area, where he keeps a residence. I know he's dealt with some health issues, had him away from the team for part of this summer. Hope Deion's doing well. Coach Prime, excuse me. If I call him Deion, I get yelled at. So I, as a member of the media, not like me personally, Dan Lucero, it's not a personal thing. It's just he didn't like that one time that media member called him Deion. So, hoping for the good health for Coach Prime and that he's able to make the trek. Oklahoma State's not traveling a quarterback. They are only traveling 3 players. I have no idea what it's going to look like for Oklahoma State because they have so many new players this year, but I don't think it's going to be pretty. I really don't. Josh Hoover, TCU's quarterback, will be there. Devin Dampier, the transfer from New Mexico, new Utah quarterback, he will be there. And West Virginia also only bringing in 3 players for their new head coach, Rich Rodriguez. Should be a fun 2 days in Frisco. Again, we'll have lots of audio. We'll try to line up exclusives with all 9 KU and K-State players who are there, as well as Chris Kleiman and Lance Leipold. We've been able to do that in past years. We will endeavor to do that again. We'll hope for some one-on-one time with some other maybe players, maybe coaches from around the conference, and bring you the best coverage that you're going to get from Big 12 Media Days, most comprehensive Big 12 Media Days coverage here on 580 Sports Talk. Next headline on the program, let's move on to a story of local note about the professional sports franchise of Topeka, Kansas. From the Ryder Cup USA account on X, Captain Keegan Bradley knows exactly what Gary Woodland will bring to the table as U.S. team vice captain. Gary Woodland named the 5th vice captain for the United States Ryder Cup team. This is a Ryder Cup year. Ryder Cup will be contested at Bethpage Black in New York, and Gary Woodland will be on the coaching staff effectively as the vice captain. And an interesting element to this is that the vice captain role could be of greater importance this year if Keegan Bradley chooses himself as one of the 12 players for Team USA, or if he just qualifies outright, which he's got a chance to do. He won the Travelers 2 weeks ago. So Keegan Bradley could be a playing captain, which would, you'd imagine, increase the importance and the visibility of the vice captain, and that is Gary Woodland. Here's a quote from Keegan Bradley announcing the choice. "I have an incredible amount of respect and admiration for Gary and all he's accomplished in this game. As a major champion and someone who is still competing at a high level, he is well aware of the demands of performing on golf's biggest stages. He will be a valuable leader for us over the coming months and throughout the 2025 Ryder Cup at Bethpage Black." The Ryder Cup, by the way, will be contested late September, 26th through the 28th. Mentioned it's at Bethpage Black. It's a great course, been a major championship course. Typically how things go in the Ryder Cup in recent years is that the United States rolls at home and then Europe crushes the United States when they're at home. So hopefully the U.S. can take that cup back, and Gary Woodland will get to celebrate. Woodland has played in the Ryder Cup. No, he has not played in the Ryder Cup. He played in the President's Cup. My mistake. He was part of the President's Cup team in 2019. This will be his first opportunity to participate in the Ryder Cup. So that is a pretty cool little nod for G-Dub, and he will be the vice captain for Team USA at the Ryder Cup. Next headline. This is things are going to take a turn here. Our last 2 headlines. I got 2 more for you, and neither of them are real pleasant. Next headline from ESPN. Woman accuses Bills' Maxwell Hairston of sexual assault. An Ohio woman has sued the first-round draft pick of the Bills from this past year out of Kentucky, accusing him of sexually assaulting her in 2021 when they both attended the University of Kentucky. The details are within the article written at ESPN.com by Shweta Surendran. Apologies if I mispronounced that name. Hairston has not been formally charged with a crime. He's only been sued and has not commented. Spokesman with the Bills has declined to comment as well. These allegations were out there. They weren't like front page news or anything, but they were very much public. They were public in the social media sphere. Like if you had done some light searching on social media of Maxwell Hairston, you could have discovered that there was somebody out there who was claiming that he sexually assaulted her in 2021. This allegation has been out there. The woman claims that she filed a report, that she received a SANE exam, a sexual assault nurse examiner exam, at the hospital within hours of the alleged incident. A spokeswoman for the Lexington Police said the department did not have a report matching a sexual assault allegation against Hairston. The victim in question ended up transferring from the university in 2021. The Bills stood by their draft pick. Brandon Beane, their general manager, was confronted with the allegation in his post-draft press conference and said the team, quote, fully investigated that allegation, that Hairston was, quote, an impeccable kid, and, quote, it doesn't seem to be anything there. So, obviously, that's a developing story and could, of course, result in potential violation of personal conduct policy as the NFL conducts its own investigation there. But that allegation exists against the first-round pick, the cornerback for the Bills out of Kentucky. One more headline, take care of your money, is pretty common advice, pretty good advice. Advice that not heeded by NBA player Malik Beasley. This headline from the Detroit News. FBI just one problem facing Malik Beasley amid $8 million in escalating financial problems. So in case you missed this from the weekend, Beasley is currently the subject of a federal investigation. So the FBI is investigating possible gambling, prop bet interference, and wire fraud on Beasley's behalf. This is particularly poor timing for Mr. Beasley because he is a free agent. And apparently there were parameters worked out where Malik Beasley was going to sign a 3-year, $42 million contract with the Detroit Pistons, who is his most recent employer. Obviously, those plans have been put on hold because he is the subject of an FBI investigation, and as we learned with the Jonte Porter investigation, if the NBA finds out you're connected to gambling or you altered the integrity of a game for the sake of a prop bet, you're going to be banned for life. So not great in that regard. Also not great in the regard that it appears that Malik Beasley could really use the cash. The study or the investigation from the Detroit News revealed that he has been sued by a variety of parties. There's a company that is called South River Capital and that lends money to athletes. They previously won a $5.8 million judgment against Beasley back in 2022. There's another sports marketing firm, Hazen Sports Marketing Group, currently suing Beasley for $2.25 million for alleged breach of contract. He was actually served the notice of that lawsuit during the Pistons playoff series against the Knicks earlier this year. This past January, a Wisconsin dentist won a $34,390 judgment against Beasley and began garnishing his NBA paychecks as a result. Also this past January, a celebrity barber in Milwaukee. I'll pause to let you laugh at the idea that there's a celebrity barber in Milwaukee. But there is. There's a celebrity barber in Milwaukee. Whose hair do you cut? The Bucks. Anybody else? Nah, that's about it. I mean, Ricky Weeks and Bill Hall haven't been in the Brewers clubhouse for a long time, so you're not cutting a lot of Brewer hair, I bet. But, yeah, a celebrity barber in Milwaukee won a judgment of nearly $27,000 against Beasley, which, again, begs the question, how do you get in hock to the barber $27K? How expensive are those haircuts? Or is it a barber shop? Is it a front for something? Like, I don't know, gambling? I don't know, just asking questions. Also, Beasley was sued by a Detroit high-rise apartment building for unpaid rent. That lawsuit was dismissed, and then he got sued again for another $7,000 in unpaid rent. There's a hearing for that one scheduled this month. The company that owns the building that is suing him is owned by the owner of the Cleveland Cavaliers, Dan Gilbert. So lots to pull out here, but clearly Malik Beasley needed money. And so that sort of draws an understanding as to why he would think it would be worth it to play ball with some gamblers trying to influence some prop bets to see if he could maybe cover some of his own debts or his own settlements, because he's about $8 million in hock to some people. And one of the main reasons that I have been largely of the belief that even with the proliferation of sports gambling, that there would not be a significant gambling scandal is because the money at stake just isn't worth it for players. Like, you go back to the Black Sox scandal, 1919, they threw the World Series. Like, I cannot imagine something like that happening because, frankly, Professional athletes make too much money. Gamblers could pay the Black Sox more than they were getting from Charles Kaminsky, their owner. That is not a thing that can happen. Gamblers cannot pay professional athletes more than professional athletes are getting paid themselves. But the flip side of this is, pro athletes can get into their own financial trouble in different ways and may feel like, well, gosh, if I can just sort of tank, if I just don't try hard to rebound tonight, what's the harm going to be? What if I just don't try to rebound and then I'll hit my under? Well, the problem is if you're in hock to the kind of people that need to make a lot of money on your rebounding prop, and all of a sudden there's a $20,000 bet on the under on Malik Beasley rebounds, that's a red flag. Because who the hell is betting Malik Beasley under rebounds? Especially at that price, right? So that's the kind of thing that sends up a red flag and gets the FBI all up in your business. And it really seems like a lot of people are all up in Malik Beasley's business and all up in his pockets. And he could really use a 3-year, $42 million contract right about now. But that doesn't look like it's going to happen for him either. Make better decisions with your money, kiddos. Let that be a lesson. When we come back, I'm taking your sports questions. Got some really good ones in the YouTube comments. I'll take them in there. I'll take them at the text line, 785-272-9429. Ask me anything sports related. Coming up next, 580 Sports Talk. $529 on 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. I am solo today. Appreciate you being with me here on the Sports Voice of Kansas. I put out a call for questions, and I got some good ones. And I'll still take some as we go along this segment. Dan, the answer man, if you will. I want your sports questions. 785-272-9429 is the text line. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, I'll answer them there as well. If you are watching on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. Let's start with this one. This was my favorite one of the bunch. I guess the good ones. But this is my favorite one of the bunch from Corey. Best high school rivalry in Kansas. Great question, Corey. I've covered high school sports in Kansas going back to 2013. I've covered it in Greater Wichita. I've covered it, obviously, here in Topeka. I've been out to Northwest Kansas to cover it. And so there are a lot of possible answers to this question. And there are rivalries I know I'm going to leave out of my answer that I haven't experienced. And so I'm going to try and limit it to ones that I myself have experienced, been a part of, gotten to see. My preference is always for a rivalry to have a little bit of nastiness to it. And that's a really fine line to walk in high school in particular, because it's one thing to be a little nasty, and it's another thing for like 14, 18-year-olds to be like horrible to other 14, 18-year-olds. So like, where like there, I like, you know, a sharp elbow to the ribs is fine. Like full on haymakers, I don't know that I want to see that in high school sports, but a little jab to the ribs. Like one of the funniest things, like I actually cracked up laughing, was when I went to a Washburn Rural versus Hayden basketball game at Rural's home gym, and I think an administrator made the kids put the sign away. But the sign that the Washburn Rural fans had, Washburn Rural students to the Hayden students, was "God loves us for free, and we get to wear sweats." That might have been two different signs as I'm thinking of it, but I got a big kick out of that sign. I say, yes, this is spicy. I might have been my first rural Hayden game too. So that's always been a favorite of mine, because there's the spiciness to rural Hayden. I wish it was still a football rivalry, but there's some spiciness there. I love Seaman Shawnee Heights. That's a rivalry to me where it's two sides that are more similar than they like to admit that they are, but don't like to admit it. And so that one, I think there's some elbow to the ribs to Seaman Shawnee Heights. I love seeing. I'm glad those two teams are back in the same league, so that they play each other every year and everything. That's always a lot of fun. It was great to see Topeka High Highland Park basketball return this last year. Wasn't the most competitive game, perhaps, but like full gyms and people really caring about that one. That was great to see. Certainly experienced some good ones down at the City League. Like Wichita Heights, Wichita East, good rivalry in basketball. Out in the Northwest, Colby-Goodland is a good rivalry, certainly. But man, there's one answer to this. It's Silver Lake Rossville. It's Silver Lake Rossville. And in all of my travels, and I've covered high school sports in 4 different states, and obviously, as a high school student, I remember our rivalry games against Mullen and Cherry Creek were really nasty, and still have animosity towards Cherry Creek High School, which is kind of hard because like a bunch of K-State football recruits are from Cherry Creek, so that's tough. But the best one is Silver Lake Rossville, man. You just can't beat it. You can't. The proximity of it, the fact that both teams are always good. I've never been to a bad War on 24. Every game is a propane heater of a football game. Last year, overtime to open the season. So that's the answer for me. My favorite high school rivalry is the War on 24. It's Rossville Silver Lake. It's the one with the name, man. Maybe that's all that needs to be said about it. It's the one with the name. Rossville Silver Lake, the War on 24. That is my answer to that question. That is a great question. Thank you for asking that question, Corey. Corey also asked if I think Hayden should leave the Centennial League and what league should they join. I don't mean to talk out of school here, but my understanding is the Big East is just fine not having Hayden as part of their league, and that would be the one that would make the most sense if Hayden were to leave the Centennial League. I think also that Hayden is happy in the non-football sports to continue to play up and compete against 6A and 5A competition, and that they'll be happy to continue doing that for the foreseeable future. I don't sense that there is a real antsiness or desire for them to leave that league. And I don't sense that there's a real antsiness or desire for one of the smaller school leagues in the area to have Hayden join them. So I think that's I think Hayden's going to stay in the Centennial for the foreseeable future. Let's do some more questions. How about this one from the text line from the 785? When will Kansas City get either a professional hockey team or a professional basketball team? Joking answer to this question would be whenever Patrick Mahomes decides, because he gets whatever he wants in Kansas City. Do you realize the Whataburger here in Topeka just opened? You can draw a straight line to Patrick Mahomes is drafted by the Kansas City Chiefs to Topeka gets a Whataburger. Like, we don't get to B without A. I firmly believe that the reason we have a Whataburger in Topeka, Kansas, or anywhere near Kansas City, or anywhere in the state of Kansas, we have Patrick Mahomes to thank, because he decided he wanted it close to home. And hey, all right, yeah, we're selling some burgers in Kansas City. Let's see if we can't sell them in other places in Kansas. So that cracks up. That cracks me up. So that's the joking answer. Whenever Patrick Mahomes decides that there should be a football or a basketball or a hockey team. Real answer is I don't see that as a realistic, like, long-term possibility. NBA is going to expand and get to 32, and the expansion is going to be Seattle and Las Vegas. It's the worst kept secret in sports. Everybody knows that. That's what's going to happen. Vegas and Seattle are getting teams. I don't know who's going to move to the Eastern Conference. Maybe Minnesota. I wouldn't hate that. I wouldn't hate to lose Minnesota in the Western Conference as a fan of a team that can't get through them. But that's going to happen. And the league getting to 32, the NHL is at 32. Now, the NHL is looking maybe at Atlanta again, which is stupid. Why would you do Atlanta again? You've done it twice. It's failed both times. Stop it. Put another team in Canada. But if the NHL looked to expand, I think Kansas City would try to get in the mix. Their building is hockey ready. It was built with the idea that maybe they could attract the Islanders or the Penguins when both of those teams had ownership situations that were in flux, and that is no longer the case. But I don't know. I think that the NHL is probably good at 32 for a while. If they go to 34, Atlanta probably does get a team, and then I don't know that Kansas City makes a lot of sense. And then how much bigger than 34 do you really want to get? You know, how much bigger than 32 do you really think you want to get? It sort of feels like teams would be good off at 32. So it would have to be somebody moving, I think. And NBA franchise valuations are pretty good right now. I think people are happy to hold on to their assets. So unfortunately, that's not something I see. I thought a more realistic play was for a WNBA team. Apparently, Kansas City did bid, but one of the impediments to them getting a WNBA team in the latest round of WNBA expansion, which, in case you missed it, new teams are going to Detroit, Cleveland, and Philadelphia to get to 20 teams by the end of this decade. One of the things that hurt Kansas City was they don't have an NBA team. And so they don't have an NBA owner backing a WNBA franchise. So I think a WNBA team is more realistic than an NBA team in the next 20 years. Let me say that. And I don't think the NHL is coming. I hate to be a downer on that because I'd love it. I'd love to be an hour away from an NBA or an NHL team, but it's just hard to see the wheels really going into motion for that. More questions. Let's take a question from... I'm scrolling here. Vance in the YouTube comments asked if I could add one rule and take away one rule in baseball, what would it be? Take away one rule, that's easy. The fake runner in extra innings. It's the worst rule in sports. I would do away with it immediately. If I could add a rule to baseball, I would implement the ABS, the automated balls and strike system. I would implement it tomorrow. Did you see how bad Tripp Gibson was behind the plate last night in that Royals-Mariners game? He was horrendous calling balls and strikes, like flipping a coin the entire night. So I would institute the automatic balls and strike system, the challenge system. I think that still gives umpires a chance to call the game and be in charge of the game, but it also eliminates the real egregious misses in the most important situations. And I think that's what that challenge system is for. It's a really fast system. It's done in 15 seconds. It'll be pretty unobtrusive. We'll all get used to it. So that is my answer to that. Get rid of the bonus runner in extra innings. Add the ABS. Mark H. asked the fun one. What's the best fireworks show at a ballpark I've ever seen? When I was real little, I went to the old Mile High Stadium back when they still had minor league baseball. The Denver Zephyrs were the AAA team, and they had a 4th of July firework thing. And I think my parents took me because they thought I would like it, and I did not. I was 4 or 5, hated it. Terrified, didn't care for it at all. I've evolved on the matter of ballpark fireworks. I think the Royals do a great show every Friday. I did go to the Fan Appreciation Night fireworks at Coors Field in Denver one year. Those were really good. But I'll tell you, it's hard to beat those the Friday night fireworks at Royals games. That's a really good show. You get your money's worth there. Thanks for the question, Mark H. Mark B. asks, favorite moment coaching Little League in Colby, Kansas. I don't know if you guys know I did this. Some of you do. Apparently, Mark B. remembers I mentioned it. So I coached rec baseball, youth league baseball, when I was living and working in Colby, Kansas. Would have been the summer of 2021. My favorite moment coaching Little League was teaching the kids how to play pickle. Because these were not kids who had like a deep baseball background. This is rec ball. This is not like travel ball. These are kids just playing a sport for fun. Parents probably want them out of the house for a little bit. So they're playing baseball for kicks. And so they didn't know pickle. I wonder if the new generation knows pickle. It's one where you try to stay in a rundown as long as you can. You have 2 fielders and 1 base runner, and the runner tries to stay in the pickle as long as possible. So I taught these kids pickle. And in the course of playing pickle, I volunteered to be the base runner and show them how it was done. And we had 2, actually let the whole team try to get me in the rundown. And I was wearing flip-flops or slides. Bad idea. I lost it on the grass and just completely ate it. Just face plant full on between the bases. And I bet you ask those kids still today, 4 years down the road, I bet they all remember that. I bet that was the highlight of their whole summer, watching their coach eat dirt playing pickle. But that was my favorite. That was my favorite memory of doing that. Just showing those kids little fun baseball things, making the sport fun for them. I think that's the least you can do if you're coaching kids, is make it as fun as possible. Let's get to another question here. How about Thomas? Are the Royals ever going to be good again? What do you think will take for them to be good again? So good is like a good last year, right? And I don't think it is a Herculean task in front of the Royals to be contending for the playoffs every year for the next handful. And the reason I don't think that's a big task is because the hardest thing to do is acquire elite talent. And the Royals have an elite shortstop, one of the best players in all of baseball. And they have Cole Reagans, who, if healthy, is one of the elite starting pitchers in Major League Baseball. So if you're starting with a superstar and an ace, those are the hardest building blocks to acquire if you're trying to be a good team. If you're starting there, you're in great shape. Now, obviously, you got to put more around that. The Royals need to do well in the next couple of drafts. They need to continue to develop hitting and bring offensive players up through the minors at a higher rate than they have in recent years. That definitely needs to happen. They also need to make sure the last couple of drafts bear out some starting pitching fruit, because starting pitching gets expensive after a while. They've got Cole Reagans on a nice team-friendly deal, but we've talked about it. Seth Lugo's not going to be on the team next year. Who's going to take those starts? They need to develop guys like Noah Cameron's a great success story, but they need more guys like that. They need Luinder Avila or Ben Cadurna or Frank Mozzicato or Drew Beam to end up being real guys. They need Carter Jensen to end up being a real guy. Not a superstar, just good complementary players. That's where the Royals are at right now. They've got the front-end talent. They don't have that complementary talent that you need. So what has to happen for the Royals to be really good, consistently good? Continued development of that complementary talent and continued investment in the free agent market, which we have seen from this ownership group the last couple of years. So that's been really positive. Let's see if I can't take a couple of more. We got some repeat askers, but I don't care. I love you guys. We'll take some more of your question. From the 785, will Topeka get a racetrack again, like we had with Heartland Park? That I could not tell you. That's a little bit outside my purview, to be completely honest with you. I would love to see some sort of sports entertainment return to Topeka. I love that we're getting hockey back. I love that. I love that the FPHL is coming back to Stormont Vale Event Center, and that we're going to have hockey back in the capital city. I think there will be good support for that if it's done right and if it caters right to the fans. But I miss Heartland Park. And I do think it's a shame that's gone by the wayside a little bit. And I'd like to see something like that come back. Vance, another question from Vance. What's the best and worst sports venue you have been to? Love this question. Obviously, it holds a great deal of sentiment to me as someone who grew up going there. But I truly believe Coors Field is America's finest ballpark. I really do. I think it's the best ballpark in baseball. I've been to Oracle Park in San Francisco. I know that's high on a lot of people's lists. It's very nice. I know Pittsburgh is really high on a lot of lists. Obviously, Wrigley Field, where I've been, has great history and so on and so forth. There are lots of nice ballparks out there. I love the K. I love it to death. Coors Field's America's finest ballpark. I absolutely believe that. As far as the worst one I have been to, I don't have anything nice to say about that new baseball stadium in Texas. Globe Life Field. I watched a baseball game in there. It felt like watching a baseball game in the middle of an IKEA. No atmosphere. It's just open to the point where you just see everybody walking around, and it feels like a big box store, department store, more than a like indoor baseball. I'm sort of opposed to just on general principle, but man, I hated Globe Life Field. I also don't care for Chase Field in Arizona. So similar concept. Those retractable roof indoor baseball stadiums, not for me. Not for me. Open the roof. Play baseball outside. So those would be my best and worst there. Good sports questions, guys. Appreciate taking those. We're going to take a quick timeout, come back, preview tonight's Royals-Mariners game. We'll do that again sometime. That was really fun. That is 580 Sports Talk. We're back after this. .548 on 580 Sports Talk. Making the turn, heading for home on this Wednesday edition of the program. Thanks so much for being here. Thanks again for all the great questions. Might do a more traditional AMA tomorrow. I'll take non-sports questions on tomorrow's show. Something fun to do going into the 3-day weekend. No show for us on Friday. We're off for the 4th. We'll be back on Monday. Tomorrow on the show, Matt Derrick will join me. Since we don't have a Friday show, we'll have our Chiefs Insider tomorrow at 4:35. Join us for that. Also, Rick Peterson for the local sports spotlight. We'll get Pistol's thoughts on the top local sports headlines of the year for the completed academic sports year of 2024-25. That's coming up on tomorrow's show. We'll continue our countdown to Chiefs kickoff. We'll recap tonight's Royals game. Game number 3 of the series between the Royals and the Mariners. Noah Cameron's on the mound for the Royals. And in Cameron's last 3 starts, he has pitched 5 innings, 5 shutout innings against the A's. He got pulled. It was probably a little early. Remember that one? 5 1/3 against the Padres, 4 against the Dodgers. He's been pulled at 83, 88, and 84 pitches. The start before that, he went 102 pitches against the Yankees, which was too many because he got knocked out of the game there in the 6th. The start before that, 6 shutout innings against St. Louis. It was 82 pitches before he was pulled. I bring all that up to say that I don't think that you can treat Noah Cameron with kid gloves tonight. If he's going well, you got to try and ride him out because Michael Lorenzen didn't get through the 5th last night. And Michael Wacha didn't pitch into the 6th the night before that. You're in a stretch of games now where your starter has struggled to get you length. Go back to the LA series. It was 5 innings for Bubic on Sunday. Lugo didn't finish the 6th on Saturday. Mentioned Cameron only 4 innings on Friday against the Dodgers. So that's a full trip through the rotation where only one guy pitched into the 6th. And that is taxing on your middle relief. That is a tough ask for your bullpen to hold up during this long stretch of consecutive days with games. So for me, I think you've got to give a longer leash to Noah Cameron tonight if he can navigate this Seattle lineup. The lineup he will be facing tonight, Mariners will go to their right-handed and switch hitting options, load up with the right-handed bats, but they'll lead off with a lefty, J.P. Crawford, the shortstop. Julio Rodriguez is in center. Randy Arozarena moves up to the 3 spot. He's in left. Donovan Solano will bat cleanup at first base. Then the switch hitting Jorge Polanco is the DH. Mitch Garver does the catching tonight. Cal Raleigh out of the lineup. We will not see big yeeks Cal Raleigh after he went over with some strikeouts last night. So Mitch Garver will catch. He'll bat 6. Dylan Moore is in right field. Ben Williamson, really good defender over there at third. If you watched last night, he's got a slick glove. He'll play third and bat 8th. Cole Young, second baseman, batting 9th. Logan Gilbert is the starter for the Mariners. He's got Cy Young caliber stuff, but has dealt with some injuries this year. He has not made it through the 6th inning in any of his last 7 starts. And some of that is because he's been hindered by injury. But he's only made 3 starts since coming off the injured list, and none of them have been particularly good. He's allowed 10 runs in 15 1/3 innings in his 3 starts coming off the IL. At his best, he's really good. He just hasn't been at his best since he came off the IL. The lineup for the Royals, Jonathan India at second base, Bobby Witt Jr. at short, Vinny Pasquantino at first, Maikel Garcia in the cleanup spot, batting 4th and playing 3rd, and then Salvador Perez DHing tonight, bats 5th. Jack Caglione in right field. He's really playing a good right field. I've really been Rusty Kuntz, tip of the cap, man. Did some good work with Cags. He looks comfortable out there in right. He's going to bat 6th. Drew Waters is in left field. Freddie Fermin does the catching, bats 8th. Kyle Isbell batting 9th in center field. 8 o'clock pregame, 8:40 first pitch tonight. You'll hear it right here from the Royals Baseball Network on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. One last break. We'll come back. We will wrap up 580 Sports Talk after this. Wrapping up and walking off this edition of 580 Sports Talk for this Wednesday. Salvador Perez still has it. And you saw it last night, 3 for 5, couple doubles, 3 big runs batted in. They were the difference in a 6-3 Royals win last night. I know you look at the season-long numbers, and they are where they are. It's tough to dig yourself out of the kind of slump that Salvi was in for the better part of the first 2 months of the season, but he's been himself really since late May. He's been what we typically see out of Salvador Perez. More outs than you'd like, but some real damage on batted balls. The home runs and the doubles are ticking in the right direction, and he's getting back to being that run-producing presence that the Royals need him to be. Now, not often enough. That's not all his fault. You can't be a run-producing presence if nobody gets on base in front of you, and that's been a problem for the Royals for the better part of this year. But none of the data indicators of washedness, if you will, are suggesting that Salvi's near the end of the line. He still swings the bat with every bit the force that he ever did, still makes hard contact as much as he ever did. In fact, exactly as often he's making hard contact as he did last year when he won a Silver Slugger. He certainly hit into some bad luck, and yeah, he's going to be frustrating. He just always is, because he's going to swing at pitches he shouldn't. He's going to put himself into bad counts. He's going to give away at bats here and there. That's just kind of the way that it goes with Salvador Perez, and we've learned over the years to take the good with the bad with him as an offensive player. But there's still plenty of good there. And if he can be, even at a minimum, the version of Salvador Perez that we saw last year. And again, all of the data suggests we kind of have in every way except for the raw numbers, batting average and slugging and all of that. But if we see the 2024 Salvador Perez the rest of the way, even if it's just that, I think that puts the Royals in really good shape. And it makes them a lot more fun to watch too, because when Salvi's having fun, everybody's having fun. Hopefully he and the boys in blue have some more fun tonight against the Mariners. 8 o'clock pregame coverage from the Royals Baseball Network, 8:40 first pitch. We'll be back tomorrow to talk all about it from 3 until 6. Matt Derrick and Rick Peterson are going to join me. I am Dan Lucero. This was 580 Sports Talk on 580 WIBW. Thank you for listening. Good night.